All right, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a resource that you are going to have to learn how to manage very carefully in the future, and that is blue crystals. And specifically today, I wanted to go through a list of the honing materials, the enhancement related materials that you do want to spend your blue crystals on, and then the materials that you want to stay very far away from and not purchase. And I will admit myself, in the first week of the game, I way overspent blue crystals, not really knowing what was good value, what was going to be efficient to buy versus not. And now that I've learned a lot more about these resources, I wanted to share with you guys my list here and go through all of the honing enhancement materials and share with you guys which ones you want to pick up and which ones you don't. So don't waste your crystals. Don't make the same mistakes as me. Let's get into the list here. And I want to start off with the absolute best purchase in the Mari's Secret Shop when it comes to blue crystals and enhancement honing materials, and that is going to be your leap stones. Something that you'll actually notice about the leap stones as well is they're generally pretty cheap. Like, you're going to get a lot of leap stones for a very low amount of crystals. If you actually go through the Mari's Secret Shop and you look at the prices of everything, it's going to be the leap stones that actually stand out as the cheapest resource. And not only that, not only are they the cheapest resource, they're going to be the most valuable. Like, it's the most efficient one by far. If you had the most limited amount of blue crystals, if you could only buy one thing in the Mari's Secret Shop, it's definitely going to be the leap stones. Now, if you have to limit it even further, of course, right now in the Secret Shop, at the time of me recording this video, we're seeing a mix of tier 1 and tier 2s. Obviously, the tier 2 ones are going to be more valuable, so if you have even more limited crystals, if you really just don't have that many to work with, just buy the tier 2 ones. But honestly, both tier 1 and tier 2 leap stones are absolutely going to be worth buying. Now, one thing that I will note very importantly, once you actually get your main character up to tier 2, be very careful buying the tier 1 leap stones. When you actually end up buying these, make sure that you claim them on another character. Because you don't want to pick up more leap stones after you've moved from tier 1 to tier 2 on your main character, because now that you're in tier 2, they're not really going to be useful to you anymore. So they're still probably worth picking up, but you want to pick them up on a character that's still progressing from tier 1 to tier 2 and not on your main. So both the tier 1, tier 2s, these are by far leap stones' most efficient value that you're going to get. Let's move on to the second thing in the list. And the second thing in the list is going to be your shards. Specifically, the one that's going to take a higher priority, of course, now that we have tier 1 and tier 2 stuff in the shop, are going to be the tier 2 ones, which are the life shards. They're the blue colored shards here. The tier 1 ones are the harmony shards, and these are still okay. Don't get me wrong, they're still, decent if you are stuck on shards and you are looking to progress to tier 2, but the life ones are going to take priority. Both the harmony and the life shards are second place here. And if you have a very limited number of blue crystals, these are the top 2 things that you want to prioritize when it comes to buying things in the enhancement store. Let's move on to number 3 now. Number 3 is a little bit of a tricky one here, and it's going to be the Star's Breath. Sorry, not the Star's Breath. The Star's Breath are tier 1. The tier 2 Star's Breath, I believe they're Moon's Breath. Let's see if I can find some. Here they are. I already actually bought these out. These ones right here, specifically the tier 2 ones, not the tier 1 ones. The tier 1s are actually going to be quite a bit further down the list, but the tier 2 ones are definitely going to be worth picking up. Again, the leap stones and the shards are higher priority, but this is third on the list here, and you might not feel like you need them right now. Even me, like, I'm not using the ones that I actually buy right now, but once you end up getting into tier 2 and you start to get to those higher enhancement levels, remember the agony of tier 1. Once you get to like 12, 13, and especially 14, those really low rates to get your gear to the next level, it's absolutely painful, and you absolutely want to have these, especially for your weapon. You're probably not going to get enough of these to really use too many on your armors. Maybe you will by the time you actually get to that point in tier 2, but very importantly, the weapons actually use more resources, and the weapon resources are more valuable. It still uses the same amount of the Moon's Breath though, so absolutely prioritize these. Even if you're using the green ones, the Star's Breath for tier 1, still prioritize these always on the weapons before the armor. They are going to save you a ton of resources and headache, especially in tier 2 where things start to slow down even more. So that's going to be third place on the list. Now we're going to move on to number 4, and I haven't talked about any of these Guardian or Destruction Stones yet because they are not in the top 3 places. Like, if you have limited numbers of blue crystals, the Leap Stones, the Shards, the Moon Breaths are going to take priority. Number 4 on the list, though, is very specifically going to be the big tier 2 and then tier 1 armor stones. Tier 2 obviously takes priority by a lot, so if you are very limited, make sure that you buy the tier 2 ones before any tier 1 resources, but the big packs. And what I mean by that is you'll actually see that there's different amounts that you actually buy. This is a great example here for the armor stones. This is a tier 1 armor stone bundle, but these ones right here have 400 tier 1 armor stones. Notice the price here is 36 blue crystals. Keep in mind that's very important. So we're getting 400 of the blue armor stones. These are tier 1 resources for 36 crystals. Now if we actually go to a pack that has 100, I actually think I bought all these out because I was getting very unlucky tier 1 to tier 2. I failed so many times, 14 to 15. But you'll notice that if you buy a bundle of 100 of these, it's 15 crystals. Now again, the bundle of 400, you're getting 4 times as many of the armor stones in the big bundle for 36 crystals. So you're paying like 2.5 times the price, but you're getting 4 times the crystals. So you're getting way more of the armor stones per crystal. Definitely buy the big ones before the small packs. And these are quite a bit down the list. Like, make sure that you're prioritizing your leap stones, your shards, your tier 2 moon's breath before these, because you can always end up buying these resources here. You can always end up buying them on the market, and they're generally not that expensive. Like right now, you can see that the guardian stones are, 3 gold each. In fact, if you're watching this video really far in the future, it might not even be worth buying these at all anymore. But the tier 2 resources, like, these are still pretty expensive. You can see a bundle of just 10 of the armor stones is 11 gold. A bundle of 10 of the weapon stones is still 14 gold. So definitely for tier 2, it's still definitely worth considering purchasing these in the Mario's Secret Shop. So that's going to be number 4 and number 5 are the big bundles and the small bundles respectively, and tier 2 always takes priority over tier 1. Now we're going to move on to the 6th thing on the list, and we're really starting to get into the stuff that's not really worth buying as much unless you have a lot of crystals or you're spending a good amount on the game. If you have a lot of these resources, you can still keep buying this stuff, but that stuff I mentioned earlier takes way higher priority. So number 6 on the list is we're going to go back to the Star's Breath, Moon's Breath. The Moon's Breath were way up the list. They're definitely worth getting. The tier 1 version of these, not nearly as high. We're now almost at the bottom of the list here, and I would say this is definitely something you can very much consider skipping. I personally ended up buying a bunch of these because I didn't really know any better, and if I could go back and maybe, change history, if I could go back and take my crystals for a lot of these that I bought, I probably would, because I don't think it's really worth it. Maybe you can pick up a couple of them for like taking your tier 1 weapon from like 13 to 14 and 14 to 15, but it's definitely not worth using these on the armors. It's really only going to be worth using it on the weapon, and if you have enough tier 1 materials, I don't think the price and the value of these is really that great. So pretty far down the list. Now, something else that I have not mentioned, also very far down the list, I talked a lot about the armor stones, but not the weapon stones. Weapon stones are very far down the list, and the game actually considers weapon stones to be worth way, way more than they actually are. Something very important to keep in mind is the armor stone bundles, even the small bundles, are going to give you 100. And I'm just using the tier 1 ones as example. The weapon stone bundles, though, are only going to give you 50. So they actually cost more crystals. It's kind of like a double whammy, a double negative. It makes it really, really not good to buy these. So they cost more crystals. We go from 15 crystals for 100 armor stones to 20 crystals, and you only actually get 50. So it costs more and you get less. Definitely not worth it. If you actually take a look at the market again, for marketplace prices, you could see that the players are valuing the weapon stones. They are still worth more, but they're not worth nearly, like, it's not as bad of a ratio as the game valuing it. Like, the game values these as like 2.5 to 3 times more valuable than the armor stones. And if you buy these in the market, you can get armors for 3, you can get weapons for 4 to 5. So, like 50% more valuable instead of 2 to 3 times more valuable. So I would really, really stay away from the weapon stones. I bought a lot of these when I started out and I regret it. Definitely not really worth it. And now the last thing on the list here, if you're in tier 2, I don't think the game gives you a very good value for these Kaldar fusion materials. I would absolutely stay away. I think I bought like one or two of these just because I didn't know any better. And when I realized how cheap these actually are, the game is currently valued them 40 crystals for 5 of these. And if you go again to the market and we take a look at these Kaldar fusion materials, you can see that you can actually buy these for like a couple of gold each. Like they're super, super cheap. One of the cheapest things out there. It just feels like they're not going to be a very limited resource. And so paying 40 blue crystals for 5 of these, like you could buy that same number of these materials for like 20 gold. So you're getting 20 gold for 40 blue crystals, absolutely not worth it. So I would definitely stay away from those. And that's pretty much everything, at least right now. Obviously, as time goes on, there's going to be more stuff added to the shop. We're going to get, at the time I'm recording, we're getting a refresh here in a few minutes as well. But I hope that this helped out, because I spent a lot of crystals that I really didn't need to, buying stuff, kind of figuring things out. And, you know, I learned, and now that I know, I wanted to share this information with you guys so that you don't hopefully make the same mistakes that I do. So save your crystals, use them smartly, use them efficiently, and get the most gains for the lowest price that you possibly can. So with that being said, that's going to be about it for the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did and you want to help out, consider leaving a quick like. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new for more informative videos like this. And feel free to check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/salt. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good one, and until next time.